Hello, I'm Carrie Wilson with the Washington Department of Ecology. We are beginning a process to identify, assess, and ultimately determine which cap-and-trade programs to approve as allowance sources for the Clean Air Rule, and we would like your input. This presentation will explain how allowances fit into the Clean Air Rule, our process for identifying and approving cap-and-trade programs, and how you can get involved. Let's start by exploring allowances and how they fit into the Clean Air Rule. Businesses covered by the rule have several ways to comply. Businesses can directly reduce the emissions at their facility. They can buy, sell, or trade reductions with other facilities in the program. They can develop or sponsor projects or programs that reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Washington. And finally, they can purchase allowances that come from approved cap-and-trade programs. Unlike the other options, the number of allowances an organization can use for compliance period reduces over time. In a greenhouse gas cap-and-trade program, an allowance represents an amount, usually 1 metric ton, of carbon pollution that a regulated business is allowed to emit into the atmosphere. Regulated businesses in cap-and-trade programs must obtain enough allowances to cover their total annual emissions. Allowances are a commodity that can be traded, bought, or sold by regulated entities or others who have access to a particular carbon market. The Clean Air Rule differs from other carbon market programs by using emission reduction units or ERUs as the basis for the program, rather than using allowances like cap-and-trade programs do. As I mentioned earlier, the Clean Air Rule allows businesses to comply by acquiring allowances that come from approved greenhouse gas cap-and-trade programs. So this means that when allowances are used by the Clean Air Rule, they are converted to emission reduction units. This slide shows how allowances work with the Clean Air Rule. First, a business obtains allowances that come from an approved cap-and-trade program. The allowance is then reported to Ecology in the Clean Air Rule tracking system. Next, the allowance is permanently taken out of service, causing an emission reduction. Ecology verifies that that allowance is no longer in service, and finally, it enters the Ecology's Clean Air Rule as an ERU and now can be used for compliance with the rule. Now that we understand how allowances fit into the Clean Air Rule, I will explain how Ecology plans to determine which cap-and-trade programs to approve. Currently, we are gathering input through a survey. We will share a link for the survey at the end of this presentation, or you can find it on our website. By the end of the summer, we plan to release a draft list of potential cap-and-trade programs and collect public comments. Finally, we plan to release our list of approved cap-and-trade programs before the end of the year. The Clean Air Rule has 3 criteria for allowances. We will use these criteria when determining which cap-and-trade programs to approve. The first criteria is that allowances are issued by an established multi-sector greenhouse gas emission reduction program. Second, covered parties in the Clean Air Rule are able to purchase allowances within the cap-and-trade program. And third, the allowances are derived from methodologies congruent with those used in Washington's greenhouse gas reporting program. Let's look at each of these criteria in more detail. Once again, the first criteria is that allowances must be issued by an established multi-sector greenhouse gas emission reduction program, meaning a cap-and-trade program. Multi-sector means that only programs that cover more than one sector of the economy are eligible, and there is a preference for programs that have a similarly broad coverage of the economy as does the Clean Air Rule. The second criteria is that covered parties in the Clean Air Rule are able to purchase allowances within the cap-and-trade program. This means that allowances must be accessible to businesses that are covered under the Clean Air Rule and not regulated by the Cap and Trade program. We will also consider if there are market or institutional barriers making a Cap and Trade program's allowances unavailable or difficult to get. The final criteria is that allowances are derived from methodologies congruent with those used in Washington's greenhouse gas reporting program. The Clean Air Rule and Cap and Trade programs use emission data from greenhouse gas reporting as a foundation for the programs. Greenhouse gas reporting programs use methodologies to provide calculations and factors for determining emissions. These methodologies and factors used by the Cap and Trade program don't have to be identical to those used by the Clean Air Rule, but they do need to be similar enough to make the data comparable between programs. We would like your input to help us determine which Cap and Trade programs meet these 3 criteria. You can share your input by taking our survey. Through the survey, you can suggest all the greenhouse gas Cap and Trade programs that you would like Ecology to consider and explain how they meet the 3 criteria. The survey will remain open through June 16, 2017. If you have further questions, please contact Bill Drumheller, Climate and Energy Specialist at the Department of Ecology. Thank you for joining us today.